What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. A little bit of a weird story today, but it does fall in the realm of politics, and it does raise the question of what happens when a city has too much power and they are so wrapped up in virtue signaling. If you've been following the news on social media, or if you've missed it, the city of Toronto showing they've jumped the shark, they've gone full stupid as they essentially shut down public pools because it is too hot outside. No, I am not making this up. Yes, I am serious. It's not AI. It is not some weird story being pulled out of a mad magazine. This is where we are in the world, folks. I've seen cities like Calgary where pipes last summer were ignored from inspection, causing water main breaks. And while it would have been convenient to just shut down one part of the city, of course, failed woke Mayor Jody Gondek in Calgary said, nah, nobody can use water all summer long. They kept the water off even when it was hot. They told kids they couldn't go in sprinklers. Water parks were shut down. And many people said, well, look, there's certain places where water's coming in from. The river had never been higher. The water essentially coming in from the Rocky Mountains. The water levels were actually high that year, and there was no reason in the world. In fact, we covered that to great extent on the channel for them to shut down water use for the entire city. Water trucks could have been outside some neighborhoods. However, it took them exponentially longer than it should have to get through such a water main break. And again, it was done on the part of negligence by Naheed Nenshit moving forward into Jody Gondek. Old news, old story. But the problem here derives from too much power, and this is why I've always had an issue when the government wants to do things like Bill C-5. We talked about Bill C-5 on the channel and why I thought it was disastrous for Canadians to allow the government to have such power over the people. In fact, anytime the government comes forward and says, we want a little bit extra power, we need some extra rules, or some extra power to change the rules in our favor, people should always say no. It should always be your first inclination to say no. And it's for reasons like this. Now, it's not to say that that was done in this situation, but this is where it can lead to. It can lead to ultimate stupidity. Brad Branford tweeting out, and again, this went viral. Public pools closed in 35 plus degree heat because it was, quote, too hot. Only in Toronto, families showed up to cool down and were turned away. No warning, no plan, just locked gates. Now, before we show this, I understand the argument of people saying, hey, Fringe, the sun's hot. People can get sunburnt. When you go in the water, it can actually lead to heat stroke, things like that. I understand all of those things. However, if you wear sunscreen, if you look after things, I grew up in Winnipeg as a kid. You usually see like 30-degree days, and this was in the 80s and 90s with, high humidity. The first thing you would do is go outside. Some kids had pools in their backyards, in-ground pools, or you go to an outdoor public pool. You want to cool off. That's exactly what they're there for. Why this was shut down, and there is a little bit of exaggeration on the temperatures. I'm going to show the video, and then we're going to discuss this in an article because it gives a little more context as to what's going on here.
In the summertime, I love taking my daughters out for a swim. And the city of Toronto has a lot of fantastic public pools. It's actually one of the best recreation services that we offer. But when it's hot out, the pools have to be open, full stop. Now, yesterday, with a humidex of over 40 degrees, the city of Toronto was actually locking people out. They were turning people away from our public pools. And the reason? Because it was too hot. Only in the city of Toronto would they close pools because it's too hot. You can't make this stuff up. Just like the snow fiasco earlier this year, the mayor got caught unprepared for the summer weather that we experience every year. We knew this heat wave was coming. Other cities like Atlanta, Chicago, Montreal, or closer to home, Mississauga, they were prepared. They didn't have to close things down. Why did Toronto? It's a pretty consistent theme that we've seen over the past couple of years. Torontonians are paying more and they're getting less. This is just the most recent example. And in what has become typical fashion, Mayor Chow is trying to duck and dodge and blame somebody else. In this case, the Premier of Ontario. But Premier Ford made it pretty clear this was Mayor Chow's decision.
That's up to the mayor and the city councillors to determine that. But I can tell you one thing, they've never had more financial support ever in the history of Toronto.
The mayor also tried to claim today that, quote, the pools were technically open but had a closure period. Come on, really? Do you think people are stupid? It's time to take some leadership, stand up, some responsibility for the situation, and stop passing the buck.
So this is insane. And again, I apologize if the audio was a little low there. I've tried to boost it as much as possible. Uh, bear with me on that one, folks. There's only so much I can do with the embedment of Twitter videos. Embedment. That's not even a word. My apologies. The issue here is control. The government loves control. The biggest issue I've ever had with government, and again, it's one thing that I've always talked about on this channel, is that when it comes to government, it used to be about passing policy. Now it seems to be all about control, where you can go, who you can talk to, where you can bank. And if they don't like that, they'll freeze your accounts. Where you can protest, who you have to be aligned with in order to protest, what you need to put in your body, when you can go and visit loved ones, how many people can be in a room. The list goes on and on. Now, none of this is related to a pandemic. However, it just shows how authoritarian a municipal government can be while they're charging you skyrocketed property taxes. Now, one of the things that Brantford brings up here that I will definitely agree with is other cities experiencing the same heat wave, like Chicago, Atlanta, they didn't have to shut down their pools. And keep in mind, the temperature is roughly the same, if not hotter. As we look over on the Calgary or Toronto Sun, I'm used to the Calgary Sun, my apologies. Toronto Sun, Joe Warmington writing this article, only in Toronto would swimming pools be closed because it's, quote, too hot. But with temperatures hitting 34 degrees Celsius, a decision was made to lock the doors and let the kids look through the fence at the cool water in the pools. It says here, this time the city of Toronto drove into the deep end and is drowning in absurdity. Toronto won't easily live down the day it closed its public swimming pools to kids and families wanting to cool down because it was, quote, too hot. That's certainly a new one. You read it right. This happened. It's nuts, even for the climate change zealots. Due to extreme humidex levels exceeding 45 degrees Celsius. I don't buy that for a minute. Outdoor pools will have intermittent closures to ensure staff and safety protocols are met. Is this what the city posted to its webpage? Please check back for updates. We apologize for the inconvenience. Of course, you see Brad Brantford and his video that we just watched. It says, needless to say, it wasn't just temperatures that were too hot. People were being kicked out of the pool. People being kicked out of the pool were streaming too. It was a real head scratcher. Steaming, not streaming. My dyslexia gets so bad sometimes when I'm reporting these things. I apologize, folks. So it says, needless to say, it wasn't just temperatures that were too hot. People were being kicked out of the pool were steaming as well. It was a head scratcher, said Councillor Brad Brantford, who has yet asked city staff to explain how it is on the hottest day of the year. So far, someone could make a decision to leave Torontonians standing outside the pool fence looking in. Are you kidding me? To date, he has been able to learn that managers following provincial guidelines determined that it was too warm for lifeguards to safely work. Again, this is where he was talking about preparation. Why couldn't there be better adequacies? As Doug Ford even said, there has never been a department that has been more heavily funded right now than the city pools and parks. So why do they not have adequate equipment? I'm guessing it's because Mayor Chow is too busy dancing in the streets celebrating Pride and renaming racist roads. Somebody please explain it to me. City of Toronto tweeted out, the City of Toronto has pools staffed and ready to help people beat the heat. Given the provincial requirements related to heat and humidex protocols, some outdoor pools had intermittent closures today to ensure staff health and safety. Staff remained on site to reopen. I mean, if they remain on site, then they clearly weren't at risk. This is a city where the mayor has asked people to pay 25% more in property taxes in the past 3 years, so it's only logical that the pools remain open, said Brantford. Again, where is your money going? Morning Man on AM 640, Greg Brady, reported Monday that he received a message from the lifeguard in East York being directed to leave his post, quote, 2 hours into a 6-hour shift. He also had a 15-year-old boy named BK on the show who said he was at the Gus Ryder pool at Sunnyside Beach when he was told he couldn't swim. A woman staffer said, "You can't go in because it's too hot." He said, she said it was too hot for the lifeguards. About a dozen people were turned away. City News reported several other people indicated Maryvale Pool in Scarborough, Pine Point Park Outdoor Pool, and West Dean Pool were also closed or restricting access due to the high heat and humidity. And they showed pictures of the lineup that lines that ensued as they waited for the pool to reopen. "It doesn't make any sense," said Brantford. "How many see this as a council member who is the best suited for change to challenge Olivia Chow for mayor in next year's election? There has to be common sense. When it comes to public parks, there are often these kind of rules that trip up common sense." Brantford said he's run across such examples, like when it comes to opening the bathrooms on a nice day in the spring because of a set date or the time that they close, 10 p.m., even on the night of fireworks, with fireworks show still being on. People have to go to the bathroom, and they will whether it's open or not, he says. So it only makes sense to extend the hours until the people have left, but bureaucracy has a tough time with this kind of thing. However, keeping kids in the heat while they look at the pool is a form of torture that should never happen again. Bradford suggests making sure there are extra lifeguards assigned to ensure they can rotate in and out for their comfort and safety. Controversy developed on Monday into a she said, he said scenario in which the mayor blamed the province and the premier said it was the city's responsibility. Mayor Olivia Chow texted News Talk's 1010's John Moore on Monday saying a few pools were ordered to close last night by Ministry of Labor because of concerns for the lifeguards. She added by 5:30 p.m. only 5 people were closed out of 85, or 5 pools, were closed out of 85, and the lifeguards are allowed to swim to cool off, so I don't understand the ministry's rules. In a news release issued by the city later Monday, Chow agreed that pools should be open. Well, that's because she got all of that flack. She's passing the buck. She's saying, "Well, it's not my job. I'm just the mayor." Pools need to be open during a heat wave. That's obvious. We're making sure we have the resources to keep them safe and healthy for city workers and all Torontonians. Let's take care of each other, check on our neighbors, especially seniors, if possible, and we'll get through this together, the mayor said. Premier Doug Ford told Jerry Agar of News Talk 1010 that the province didn't order the pools closed, and he suspects the mayor was reading guidelines made more for someone pouring asphalt in extreme heat. Ford's spokesperson, Grace Lee, told the Toronto Sun that after the premier looked into the matter, he learned no inspector from the Ministry of Labor or any other ministry had made any directive or even inspected any Toronto pool. Does that not sound to you, the viewer, like this was just climate alarmism? This were the environmentals like Olivia Chow coming out saying, "Hey, we want a little more control. We just want to virtue signal a little and say, hey, it's nice that you want all these things, but you'll own nothing. You'll be happy. We're just going to shut it down and you guys can deal and find something else to do." I mean, it's a really petty topic to discuss, but one that I think is just absolutely absurd, especially as we go into the summer months. This is like shutting down a ski hill and saying it's too cold to go skiing. I really fail to understand what is going on in the city of Toronto. And hey, you know what? It's kind of a fun story to report on. Not fun for the people in Toronto, however, but one that doesn't revolve a lot of doom and gloom of the federal government. But it really begs to ask the question of control. When does it become policy for cities, provinces, federal governments to only pass policy rather than attempt to control its citizens? When is this streak of control going to end? The problem is never, if we don't do something about it. When it comes to our elections, mayors are now being installed in cities like Toronto. We've seen it in Calgary. We've seen that even those who have viable platforms will never be heard because of, well, messed up elections, we'll say. Where do we go from here? I'm going to leave that up to the viewer. Tell me what you think about Olivia Chow passing the buck and shutting down all the pools in Toronto. If it's your first time here, I sure hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure as you hit that button, you turn on the bell for all notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show where I go over everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I always look forward to talking with you guys outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to talking with you this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. Again, I apologize for my lysdexia during the article, folks. That one was rough. Usually doesn't get that bad. I'm sure I'll hear all about it in the comments. Hey, they're always welcome. Fire away. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.